Okay, so backtracking a little bit, when we're talking about horizontal asymptotes, right? We have the horizontal asymptotes. Where are the horizontal asymptotes going to be? If it's top heavy, bottom heavy, equally balanced. And then up here we have where the limits, right? If it's top heavy, the limit is either going to be positive infinity or negative infinity. If it's equally balanced, it's going to be the limit's going to be the leading coefficients divided by each other. Okay. And then if it's bottom heavy, the limit's always going to be 0. Okay. And then here are the horizontal asymptotes. Right? Same, top heavy, no horizontal asymptote. Bottom heavy, y equals 0. It's got one horizontal asymptote at y equals 0, which is the same thing as the x-axis. Okay. And then equally balanced is the ratio of the leading coefficients. All right. Then we did a couple problems, and then we stopped at letter G. We stopped at letter G here. Okay. Okay, so this one is in factored form. It hasn't been multiplied yet, right? I could do distributive property with the top. I can multiply the bottom, right? That's what factored form means. It hasn't been multiplied before multiplication. I can do that, but most of it doesn't matter. What's the only thing I care about when I'm looking at these guys? When I was looking at these guys here or these guys here, what is the only thing I cared about when I was looking at when I have a limit as x approaches infinity or negative infinity? What's the only thing I care about? Mhm. Which exponents? Yeah, more specific. Which exponents? The degrees, right? Wherever the degrees were, that's the only place I cared about, the highest exponent, right? So when I do this, like the top, you can distribute. It doesn't hurt. So I'm going to get 12x squared minus 8. But the bottom, I'm not going to multiply. And I'm not going to multiply the whole thing because I'm only concerned about the degree. So if I was to multiply these two binomials, what would the degree be? Mhm. X to the fifth. Yeah, x to the fifth. Because that would get when I multiplied these two guys. When I did the outside of FOIL, when I multiplied these two guys, I would get x to the fifth power. Because 3x's and 2x's to combine make x to the fifth. And then what would the coefficient be for that? 8. I don't care about the rest because the rest would not be the degree. It wouldn't be the degree. It would be less than x to the fourth, x to the fifth. Okay. Now I have enough information that I can do the problem. So here, so the degree on top is 2, the degree on bottom is 5. That's where I'm going to focus my energy, right there. Okay. I'm going to focus my energy right there. So now I can make a decision. Is it top heavy, bottom heavy, or equally distributed? It's very bottom heavy. Yeah, it's very bottom heavy. So if it's bottom heavy, what did we say for the limit? The limit's going to be 0. Mm-hmm. The limit's 0. We don't care if it's negative infinity or positive infinity. Even if that guy was negative infinity, even if this limit right here was negative infinity, we don't care because it wouldn't change 0. You can't change 0. 0, 0. It can't be negative 0, right? So that's the only time we don't care about if it's bottom heavy. We don't care about if it's negative infinity or positive infinity because it's just 0. Okay. All right, H. Try H. Actually, try H. Do H on your own. See what you get. I'll give you a few minutes. Okay, so the top. Again, I only care about the degree. When I see that it's a limit that approaches infinity or negative infinity, your focus just is on a degree, not the whole thing. Okay, so the degree here is 6, right? But it's got a square root. So it's not really x to the 6th. When I eventually would do the problem, if I were to plug in an x here, if I were to plug in a number here, here, and here, I would immediately cube it to the 6th power and square it, right? But then what would happen was I would have to take the square root. So essentially it's not x to the 6th. What is it? X to the 3rd. So it's the square root of 64 times x to the 3rd. Well, 64 does have a square root, right? It's 8. So I can actually change that to 8. If it didn't, I would just put square root of 64 on there. Okay. The bottom, the no square root, but the degree is 4. Bottom heavy, top heavy, or equally distributed. What was that? Bottom heavy. Yep, bottom heavy, just like the last one. So the limit is going to be 0. Okay. Okay, so example number 2, the last couple examples, the last 4 examples, you have to do 2 things. You have to find the limit and you have to find the horizontal asymptote. You have to find the limit and you have to find the horizontal asymptote. Okay, you got to do both. So what I want you to do is I'm going to give you some time to work on this. I'm going to give you about 5-7 minutes or so. I want you to work on this. We will talk about it. Okay, we're going to go over this and then we'll be done with the notes. Okay? All right, go. So you got to do both. Find the limit and the horizontal asymptote. Okay, so you got to use the table and to figure this out as well. All right, so let's start. Let's start with Larry, 2a. Okay, so it's positive infinity. There's no real issues in terms of we need to multiply, it's in factor, there's a square root, anything like that, right? It's clear that these are the 2 guys I need to focus on. All right, those are the guys that are the degrees. Okay. Based on that, top heavy, bottom heavy, equally distributed. Bottom heavy, very bottom heavy. So that means it's going to be 0. The limit's going to be 0. Okay. Horizontal asymptote. Where would the horizontal asymptote be? At y equals 0. Good. Second one. This one is not bottom heavy. This one is equally distributed, right? So it's equally distributed. Now I have a positive infinity here, so I don't have to worry about, anything else. I could just focus on that. So I got to focus on the ratio of the leading coefficients. Well, I have a 2 and I have a 1. So 2 over 1 is 2. And then a horizontal asymptote at that same location, y equals 2. Okay. Last 2. Okay, this one is top heavy, right? This one is going to be very top heavy. So if it's top heavy, what is our limit going to be? Or what does it say the limit should be? Positive or negative infinity, right? It should be positive infinity or negative infinity. What is going to be the factor there is this guy here, right? So if I were to plug in very, 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 very big negatives way to the left of the number line, what would I get on top here? Would this give me a positive or a negative? On top, positive, right? Because x to the 4th cancels out negative. So you would get a positive. On bottom, what would I get? Negative, because it's just multiplied times 3. And so that means that would lead me to a negative infinity answer. That's the limit. Now, what did it say about the horizontal asymptote? There's none. No horizontal asymptote. Very good. Okay. Last one. Last one's a little tricky. It's not really tricky, but it's It's just different, right? There is no denominator, or there is no denominator. It's just top. So it's going to be top heavy, right? Because if the bottom is just 1, it's top heavy. So what is the limit going to be? If it's top heavy, what's the limit? Negative or positive, just like we just saw, right? Okay, so let's do a little bit more investigations. When I plug in this guy here, a negative big number, huge number, negative, the biggest negative number you can think of to the left on the number line. If I had a number line up here, if I plugged it in here, what would I get? Not a negative. I would get a fraction, a very small number, right? Because I would get a negative big number like that, right? Well, we know that means 1 over that very small, that makes it a very small number, right? And then if I were to plug it in here, what would I get? Positive. So we would say positive infinity. Okay. Since it is top heavy, where's the horizontal asymptotes? No horizontal asymptotes. Good. Okay. All right. Okay, so since we got some time, we got over 30 minutes, I want you guys to start on the assignment. It's on Google Classroom. It's going to be on Delta Math. So grab a Chromebook, and I will post the assignments.